After months of tense negotiations, the United States and the European Union have announced a tentative trade agreement. It includes a 15% tariff on most products from the European Union's 27 nations. The EU has also agreed to buy $750 billion in American energy and invest $600 billion in the U.S. Analysts warn consumers can expect price hikes in German cars, French perfume, and pharmaceuticals. All right, for more on this, let's bring in Mark Hamrick, Washington Bureau Chief and Senior Economic Analyst for Bankrate.com. Mark, welcome. This seems like a huge win for America. Mark, what's your initial reaction to this new deal between the U.S. and the EU?
Jenna, let's go with the broad brushstrokes, first of all, of where we were before the broad brushstrokes of this agreement were announced. And we still need a lot of details, and that is why many analysts are rather reticent to say, how exactly this is going to impact us, because it was a handshake. There were, broad aspects of the agreement were announced, but there are a lot of details still to come. But in terms of, as we've been discussing tariffs more broadly, we remind ourselves that these are taxes on imports coming into the United States. And ahead of this announcement, the expectation was that the European Union's products would face a tax of about 30%. Now, broadly speaking, that's been reduced to 15%. And so people were looking for a bad outcome, and this outcome isn't as bad. And so, down the road, economists still think that for the full year, we're looking at an increase in the inflation rate to an annualized rate of about 3%. They broadly look for growth this year to come in at 1% rather than the usual 2%. And so, as you said, this affects the 15% on cars, 15% on pharmaceutical products, the drugs that people need to take in the United States that come from Europe, principally Ireland, and semiconductors. And so this may be good for the semiconductor industry in the United States, but it also means that it's actually a lower tariff on cars principally coming from Germany into the United States. I think if there's any most positive news about this, it is that there was no apparent EU retaliation. In other words, they aren't going to tax U.S. exports from what we can tell. And as you said, there are some very broad ideas here about the EU investing in the United States and buying energy products.
Yeah, it's not just the EU, too. Japan, President Trump recently announced a massive trade deal with Japan. His tariffs, Mark, have been hugely controversial. He's gotten a lot of criticism for them. But are these tariffs actually working as we see these deals negotiated that really, by all appearances, seem to benefit the U.S.?
Well, it's very early days, Jenna. We're speaking here on the doorstep of August. We had the initial announcement in April, and it's way too early to know what the impacts on U.S. industry will be, because it takes a long time to build a plant to manufacture something. I think one of the benefits that people are broadly rallying around is the fact that the revenues that are being collected for the United States government are in the billions of dollars, and that will go to satisfy perhaps about a tenth of the annual deficit that we have, and we'll see how it relates down the road. These taxes are being paid by someone, typically the importing company. So we'll see how it works out, but I think that, earlier we thought it could be a pretty challenging situation if we just want to focus on the EU situation. Now that's been reduced effectively by about half, and so you have to say, well, okay, that's not as much of a hit as businesses and ultimately consumers might have to take.
Yeah. All right, Mark Hamrick with Bankrate. Always good to see you. Thank you, Mark.